Believe it or not, there was a time when I once felt joy. And back during that time, one of those things that brought me joy personally was finding out that a new movie was coming out, especially if it was a movie based on something that I already enjoyed. Whether it was based on a video game or a comic book or just something that I was already familiar with. And there was nothing worse than finally getting to see that movie, and it sucked ass. So here's 4 films that should have been good, but suck ass. Still considered one of the best video game adaptations of all time, Mortal Kombat is considered a classic by some in terms of they remember it from their childhood, and it's pretty decent. It's not the best movie by any means, but come on, man, it got everything right for the most part. That story is pretty much what people think of when they think of the Mortal Kombat story and the way that those characters are portrayed. Now, are there missteps in that film? Of course. It's not perfect by any means, but it's definitely still solid. So as a kid, after watching the first Mortal Kombat movie, you think, wow, I can't wait for the next one, man. Mortal Kombat 2, this is gonna be awesome. But instead of Mortal Kombat 2 awesome, we got Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I'm so dead inside. So what can I say about Mortal Kombat Annihilation that hasn't already been said? A lot of the acting is straight up garbage, as if they picked the actors out of garbage cans while trying to film it. The special effects are lacking in some places. Yes, we all know these kind of things. We've heard about it since the movie came out. There's nothing new to say about it. Other than the fact that, how do you set up a sequel at the end of your first movie with a game that you know takes place after the first game? How'd you not make them come together? Like, how do you mess that up that bad? I guess what I'm trying to say is it hurts. I mean, they had everything set up to go forward with this. It's kind of like they really just went through the motions and thought, well, people seem to respond to the first one alright, so let's just do more or less that, but without any of the effort, without any of the thought process of, hey, these are still characters, they should act like they're characters, and they couldn't even get most of the cast to return. So it feels like a missed opportunity that still bothers people today. I mean, we've had the short film Mortal Kombat Rebirth, which people were interested in, Mortal Kombat Legacy, which is actually a really good web series that kind of sets up things after the first tournament. It feels like it could be the real sequel to the first Mortal Kombat movie if you really want to look at it that way. It wouldn't make sense doing it that way, but it still works. And then there's been talks of a new movie, so we have that to look forward to. But I don't think the dark shadow that is Mortal Kombat Annihilation will ever really leave our minds. It's a kind of a permanent scar. It did a fatality on our hearts. Okay, picture this. It's one of the most well-known and beloved animes of all time. It's got everything you could want to make a film or a series of films. There's magic, there's aliens, there's energy blasts and martial arts action. There's even romance and a journey and all these wonderful, amazing things. Instead, we got Dragon Ball Evolution. Now, much like Mortal Kombat Annihilation, what the hell else can I say about this that hasn't already been said? The acting, the special effects, the story, the pacing, the editing, everything about this film sucks ass. And not just sucks ass, like it inhales it with such a fury. It's almost as if someone went out of their way to make it this shitty. But I don't think they did. And that's very compelling. It's like, where's the movie about the poor bastard who wrote this script and thought, yeah, that's good. Not to mention the whole, we got Justin Chatwin as Goku? What planet am I on? What world does... Justin Chatwin was in a movie in 2007 called The Invisible. It's not a great movie, but the worst part about it is Justin Chatwin sleepwalking through the role. Not once does he have a sense of urgency. When he tells his mother he's dead, he's like, "Mom, I'm dead." She can't hear him, but he doesn't react how a human would act. So you would think in Dragon Ball Evolution, well, he's technically an alien, so maybe he has some kind of no. He feels like he's half asleep, but also when he gets mad, he gets visually mad, but not actually mad. You see the veins in his head and his neck, and he's just a strange fellow. So the point I'm trying to make is, once again, we have something that has a story, a long-running story that they could easily follow, and especially when it's supposed to be the first movie. You could either make it an adaptation of Dragon Ball, or you could start at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z. I mean, it wouldn't have much character development from that, but you could do something. And instead they gave us nothing. Nothing but fat, nasty ass. Okay, picture this. You have one of the best video games of all time. And at this point, there's at least 3 or 4 of them. So you have a consistent story, right? You get the man who started the modern zombie franchise to write the script based on the game, which was an homage to his original film. And then you just don't do it. You just don't. You just don't do that at all. You just say, "F*** you." I'm talking about the Resident Evil films. Capcom had reached out to George Romero to write for the first Resident Evil film. In his own words, George said it was 98% like the game. And they said they didn't like his script. To him, they wanted a war movie. So they got Paul W.S. Anderson, who, surprisingly enough, directed the first Mortal Kombat movie. Were they thinking, well, he had success with that, basically. I'm sure he can make us more money with our franchise. But here's the thing. They didn't want Romero's script because it was too much like the game. So they get W.S. Anderson. He puts his version or whatever to them. And then he tells people, "Oh yeah, fans will really like this. It's pretty much just like the game." Bullshit. Bullshit! When I saw the film, I was like, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. And I thought, well, maybe the characters from the game will show up in the next one. They teased an ending that would lead right into Resident Evil 2. And I kind of looked at it as almost a prequel to the first game. So I thought, well, maybe that's the mansion that Chris and Jill and the STARS members go into in the next movie, while the events of Resident Evil 2 happen with the new character, Alice. That's giving it too much credit. Instead, what happened was a series of films that escalated in their stupidity and almost trying to outdo itself with just how insane and idiotic and lack of coherent story it was trying to do. I mean, this is a film series that forgets its own continuity all the time. I'm talking about the Resident Evil films. And then they'll bring back characters because like, oh yeah, we forgot we had that character. And like, you don't take a fifth film and say, here's a character from the first game. I'm looking at you, Barry. Why'd they do that to Barry? Barry, where's Barry? He's in that film, unfortunately. There was a short teaser film that was called Dave. It was supposed to be a concept for a new show based on Resident Evil, taking place before Resident Evil 2 but after Resident Evil 1, and it was going to be called Arkley, I believe. That short film was more Resident Evil than that entire series of films put together, and it was passed over for some reason. And most recently, at the time of this recording, they're planning on making another movie, starting fresh, thank God, but they're starting it at Resident Evil 2. I will never understand how it is difficult to take something that exists already mapped out, and make an adaptation of it. People always say that, oh, video games are really hard to make into movies. It can't really be done. Look at all these failures. It's not that it can't be done. I just feel people don't do it for the right reason. They don't make it for the story. They don't make it for the fans. They make it so each person can get their writing credits, directing credits, and all that shit, and make money. Because money will always destroy art. Greed destroys story. That is how it works. Of course, all this talk of greed and adaptations, obviously, brings me to my last film, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. When I read this book, I was surprised at how good it actually was. I was enthralled with the story, I cared about the characters, they set up a nice mythology and everything, followed all the things you'd need for a successful story to become a successful film. Well, for some reason, they decided to change the mythology, fill the film with a lot of horrible CGI action scenes, and basically take everything good about the movie and just kind of push it off to the side. One of the major changes to the film is that they say that the vampires can't actually hurt other vampires for some reason. Something about it's a curse from God and all this stupid shit. And I'm like, okay, let me explain something. In the book, the vampire that helps Lincoln become a vampire hunter, he has experience fighting other vampires and killing other vampires. That's kind of his whole thing. So to have the movie have him in it and be like, oh yeah, but we don't kill vampires, we can't kill each other. You got a lot of nerve, mister. So of course there are obviously more films that should have been good and suck ass, but I thought I'd stick with just these 4 for now. I can't remember the last time I was so disappointed in something that I thought was a sure win, other than my life. But got a lot of us that you can't